Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'll be doing a full rundown on all things Giorgio Armani complexion products, specifically their liquid foundations as well as their beautiful new launches when it comes to cushions and to-go compacts. So the recent launch of the designer Essence-in-Balm cushion, and as the name suggests, it has so many claims, but basically I saw that a lot of people were reviewing it and I purchased this. So I dug up my collection to do a comparison between all the cushions as well as alongside all the liquids. And you guys probably know so much about what I like in terms of a foundation finish, because my ideal formulation for any formal occasion, and even if I was genuinely having my wedding, I would go for the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk. That being the case, the bar is set really high. So with all these cushions, I'll be making comparisons to kind of what is similar to the liquid versions or any other product Giorgio Armani has, and also how they differ. More importantly is to see whether or not this new launch, as well as everything that Giorgio Armani has going on at the moment, is really worth paying that higher price point, or is it just a gimmick? So let's just head into the first product and I'll talk you through the whole review. Alright, the Essence-in-Balm cushion is simply a product where it has a thick balm underneath a mesh layer, and with the Essence-in range, the to-go Essence-in range, they typically have this really beautiful mesh, a type of mesh, and it lets the product really kind of seep through evenly and also gives you even coverage on the cushion puff. But for this product, the designer Essence-in-Balm cushion, it's supposed to be that balm technology that retains moisture really well and gives you a very skin-like finish. And primarily it's all about your all-in-one sun protection, kind of giving you all day hydration and prolonging that moisture retention. So with all those claims, basically my use of this cushion was pretty surprising. I would say that I had assumed that with their existing Essence-in foundation to-go cushion, this is a strict kind of a real cushion. It isn't a balm or anything like that. So I had thought like what the difference in terms of these two would be. So surprisingly, I will show you the comparisons between these two cushions shortly because they are the same range. But I would say that for this cushion, what really struck out to me was that it wasn't as dewy as the Essence cushion, because when I first used this, I was really pleasantly surprised in how different it was compared to the whole lineup from Giorgio Armani. So when I was using this, when I applied the first layer, essentially it gave me a really light coverage, but also I felt like this balm consistency was something that I haven't really seen before, because typically balm foundations sit a bit more drying. So I was surprised that this actually did add quite a bit of moisture, but it isn't too oily a texture. And using it with the puff, actually I feel like is the best way to alter the kind of hydration level that you want. And if you strictly want to retain everything, all the moisture in it, then I would suggest either going in with a beauty sponge or even a foundation brush. But even then, a foundation brush would eat up a bit of the moisture. But I felt like the cushion puff was a great in between where you could kind of layer it on top of one another. The thing about this is that it doesn't set down to anything too much. It's more like a very comfortable moisture barrier on top of your skin, and it just stays like that. So if you add another layer like I did, I basically added a second layer to see how much coverage I could achieve, and it didn't add too much coverage per se because it kind of wasn't setting. So I would say that this is definitely a light coverage cushion. In terms of wear time, I would say the Essence-in-Balm cushion gave me about a 3 to 4 hour before I needed to kind of either reapply or blot with a tissue. That being the case, it still has a level of moisture. So if you don't even like that shine, then typically you'll be blotting the whole day. So if you're someone who likes like a light hydration type of a finish, something like a tinted moisturizer but slightly less hydrating than a tinted moisturizer, then maybe you will like this. But because of that moisturizing property, my 3 to 4 hour mark kind of evaluation is really that the hydration remained at that level. My oils didn't add to it, so it was really pretty decent. But I found that when I put powder on it, it gave me another hour at max, because it really was something that allowed my oils to be controlled when used on its own. But when a powder was added on top, it kind of promoted my skin to want to produce its oils, and that kind of just went through the surface. But yeah, I think it's pretty decent, and also it's great for touch-up, so you don't really have to be too bothered about longevity. It was beautiful on the skin in a way that it was pretty light reflective, not in a shimmery kind of quality, but really radiance inducing, but it isn't too kind of tacky or isn't too dewy. So this is properly illustrated with the To Go Essence in Foundation cushion. This is highly dewy, and I will just show you how it looks like on its own first. And this is one that I still really like, because when I think about cushions, I typically don't really think of them as a standalone product. I like to think of them as a multi-purpose product. And I know a lot of Korean makeup artists always say that, you know, using a cushion is really your first step to that tone up appearance or something to even out the complexion. So this is highly dewy and super hydrating. It's saturated with a whole load of essence, and also I feel like it does separate from time to time, but you just need to press the cushion puff in to mix the two together. But that just shows how much emphasis on the skincare properties are in this cushion. So similarly, when I applied the first layer, right off the bat you could see all that dewiness coming out of the cushion, and I would say that it also has the same amount of coverage to the designer balm, and it's not that noticeable that this has major coverage because it is quite, you know, reflective due to the sheen the essence gives. But I would say that if I look really up close at, you know, my discoloration, it's pretty neutralized. It's nicely neutralized that I don't really need a concealer, which is quite surprising. You can see a bit of discoloration, but I do like it's just dewy and it reflects light under my eye, so I don't typically use concealer with any of these two cushions for an everyday. So I would say both have about the same level of coverage, but the Essence in Foundation cushion is seriously way more dewy and hydrating than the recent launch. Okay, so once again, I'm just going to show you the side by side of these two cushions, and I would say that it's really interesting how they managed to give a distinction to the To Go line, and the reasons to why they did it I think is pretty impressive. But truly, the recent launch didn't blow me away as much as the existing one, because I feel like, you know, when it comes to cushions, it should be a little more different than their existing liquid range. But I guess the compact and, you know, the packaging is what really draws people, as seen in the LANEIGE cushion kind of talk through. But yeah, I would say out of these two cushions, I would definitely pick this, even though I am an oily skin girl. But I really do like the fact that I don't have to use moisturizer when I use this, because it is an all-in-one and it's really good. It typically doesn't give you that long a wear, as you can imagine, but when I just use it on the high points, it was just perfect and it didn't really slip and slide. But if you use this strictly on its own, I think less than an hour and it might just kind of be smeared all over, so you do have to use this with caution. But that being said, it's a super hydrating cushion, so you're gonna expect not a very long wear time, but very extreme hydration and also prolonged hydration, and the hydration factor actually does last throughout the day. This actually has more similar qualities to the Luminous Silk Foundation. Just the Luminous Silk Foundation has lesser hydration, but it has this like very subtle radiance into the formulation that isn't induced by moisture. It's really strictly kind of maybe the pearl qualities within the liquid, and it feels, I mean, the Luminous Silk definitely feels a lot more, I wouldn't say mattifying, it just feels more skin-like without being too wet or tacky. So the fact that the Luminous Silk still can kind of like reflect light is truly an attribution to the liquid formulation and whatever they put into this that allows it to reflect light. Yeah, so I would say these two are a little bit more comparable. Another close comparison to the balm would be the Neo Nude Skin. It's just that this will perform a lot more like a medium coverage tinted moisturizer, as well as the balm being a kind of tinted essence balm, but something with not that much hydration. So I feel like it really does sit in between the Luminous Silk as well as the Nude. If you're someone who is saying that this isn't supposed to be like a foundation type product, supposed to be like, you know, a glow up, a tone up kind of a product, then I would actually agree with you, because that was my experience with this. It's a great topper on top of makeup, or it's also a great just pick me up under the eyes, like after a long day, to just smooth over the balm. And also the fact that it blocks UVA and UVB rays and has sun protection qualities makes it a very good on the go kind of cushion. And this strictly for this cushion alone, because the balm quality just allows you to kind of give a very thin veil over the top, versus something like the Essence where it's strictly if you want hydration, but it would be a layer of pretty heavy liquid that would sit on top of your makeup, so that would definitely like slip and slide all over. So I think that the Essence-in-Balm cushion is a tone up kind of product, or something that you can use more so as a pick me up, and not something you should rely on its own, because it does have pretty low coverage. Alright, and another kind of balm cushion that they have in Giorgio Armani is the Power Fabric. Just strictly a balm. If you see in the close-ups, there's no mesh layer, it's just a balm sitting in the cushion compact. And I did side-by-side comparisons with their Power Fabric Longwear Foundation, the liquid version, and I had thought that, you know, definitely it's gonna be the same and it's not gonna differ too much. But I would say that a starking difference between the two, the liquid doesn't really set as much as the balm. The balm really sets and it feels like absolute lightweight velvet on the skin, and it has equal coverage to that of the Power Fabric, so I'm really surprised with that. And I would say that actually out of the two, even though I do prefer like pump bottles because you get more bang for your buck, but I would say that it's almost virtually impossible to finish this balm consistency, because I didn't even use that much to achieve a full coverage, and it covered all my flaws. It looked beautiful and it sat down really beautifully as compared to the liquid, and I feel like it's surprising, but also it's great, because the thing that I found that was difficult about the liquid version was that it kind of felt a bit thick on the skin, and also when I kind of, even if I put setting powder on top, it didn't really allow the liquid foundation to mesh into the skin. But this gives you that kind of blendability similar to the Essence-in-Balm. It gives you that thin veil property. It allows you to control the amount you use while still having loads of coverage. So I think that this, even with one light layer, you can achieve a high medium coverage, and with 2 layers it's definitely a full coverage. This gave me a solid 5 hours wear without any powder and waist powder. It was just all day. It was great, and it gave me a very long wear time without being anything that was transferring everywhere. I would say that just don't really use powder if you're going to be using it for a full day. Just use it on its own, because it has that velvet finish already, and just lightly blot where you need to, and it will look super flattering. But yeah, going back to the side-by-side comparison on these two, virtually, like as you see it, there isn't any real difference like just by the naked eye, but it's all about like how it feels on the skin. I would say that the Power Fabric liquid feels heavier and this feels lighter, simply because with a balm and with a cushion puff you can like really sheer it out. With both application, I used cushion puffs on both sides, so I still feel the same way. They're pretty heavy on the skin, and the only real way you can get it to be not so heavy is to use a lot less product. But I felt like even though I used a lot of the balm, it felt like nothing on the skin at all, so it's really great. Alright, and really quickly, because this video is not exactly about the liquid variety, but I'm going to mention the Nude because I haven't talked about it before. If you want to see a strict comparison between my two favorite liquid foundations, the Luminous Silk as well as the Power Fabric, you can click here. But the Nude is something that I would say can compare more likely with cushion compacts, because it is, like I mentioned, something like a tinted moisturizer property, and also it is, I think, one of Giorgio Armani's really good products in the way that it suits the true everyday corporate woman, and it's something that is more beneficial for the skin in the long term because anything hydration, anything skin-like is something I advocate for when it comes to foundations. Also, I don't like products in cushion compacts in general because I do find that it's a bit of a waste of money to buy something because of the compact. I'd rather get more product, more of the good stuff, and I feel like the new Nude, everything in this tube is so beautiful. I would say that the new Nude is just really beautiful on the skin. It has this very gel-like texture, and I love everything with gel or serum qualities to it, and it's just super hydrating, but not in a overly tacky way like the Essence-in foundation cushion. This is truly dripping wet, and I feel like it's just very editorial, and it's that cushion compact where you have a full matte appearance. You apply it on the tops of your cheek and it will just glisten like a natural highlight. But this is more like, you know, your regular gel moisturizer, so it will give you decent hydration, and on my skin it actually lasts a whole day. And compared to, like, let's say the Essence-in-Balm, this doesn't have that much hydration, so definitely still use your moisturizer. But this on its own really works super well on me, and I feel like it's a my skin but better type product. Basically, you can see with one layer I got medium coverage, and with another it was around high medium. It wasn't anything too overly kind of full coverage, and say that this has more of like a natural glow quality, not something that is like a satin finish with like maybe that kind of pearl finish. It's more of, you know, a natural radiance you would get from a moisturizer. So it's a very straightforward formula, and I really like it. So Nude give me about 3 to 4 hours wear with no powder, and the coverage still maintained and wore away really naturally at the end of the day. But I would say that this is also a moisturizer type formula, so don't expect the coverage to stay the full day, but this definitely does last way longer than the Essence range. But it's just super beautiful on the skin, and it's the most natural. So as I usually do, I'm gonna rank my top 3 favorites, and my perspective on Giorgio Armani is strictly like gonna be formal editorial use, not everyday use. So things that are gonna be super good for, you know, weddings, formal occasions, photo shoots, that kind of thing. So not typically what would sit well on your everyday skin, even though you guys know I really like the tinted moisturizer variation for everyday. Starting off in third place would be the Essence-in foundation cushion, and this is more of, reiterated 100 times during this video, a topper type of cushion. And because it's going to be super editorial looking, it's something that even for a formal occasion I would ditch the actual highlighter and, you know, the shimmery highlighter, and just use this at the tops of the cheeks because it gives a beautiful glow. And it also, I've tried it sitting on top of a cream base, so when I apply like quite a saturated amount on the cheeks and lightly blend it and do a very light dusting of powder on the face, the natural glow just sits through beautifully. So like I mentioned, I usually use this more for hydration properties on the high points of the cheeks, which is why I really like this for photo shoots as well as formal occasions, but not using this solely alone. I mean, you could for every day, but I typically use it as, you know, a 2-in-1. The second great foundation that I would recommend from Giorgio Armani for editorial use would be the Power Fabric cushion. I mean, it's not really a cushion, it's a balm, but I really like this, like I mentioned, because I used to have a bit of a love-hate with this, even though I do find it to be pretty good because it's definitely a super oily girl's favorite type of foundation, but I always found that it never really fully set on the face. So this is that perfect in between, and it also sets beautifully, and it allows you to use a lot less product. And I feel like while it doesn't give you any sort of noticeable sheen or hydration, when I layer this with my regular moisturizer or my sunscreen, it performs beautifully, and it meshes together with the skincare and with your actual skin really beautifully without having you apply too much of this product. So that's really great, and the best thing is that it's in this compact, so what's not to love? And still, my top favorite, my number 1, is forever gonna be the Luminous Silk Foundation, because this doesn't have SPF, I think the Power Fabric also doesn't have SPF, but because it doesn't have SPF, it doesn't have flashback, and also this is like a natural satin finish. It also doesn't have that much hydration, but I feel like this as well as the NARS Sheer Glow are always gonna be the two foundations that on my actual wedding day I will probably be using. So these are really good. I've talked so much about this and a lot of people have talked about it as well. I would say that, you know, it's not something I will wear every day because it does feel a little bit tightening on the skin unless you do your necessary skin prep. But I also feel like it's not necessary to have that much coverage on an everyday. So like I mentioned, this is more like editorial use, so definitely you can never go wrong with this. Once you apply it, you know, you don't have to fret about how it will translate on camera or anything like that. It just looks really beautiful. Alright, so this is me just kind of talking through all things that is comparable to the new launch, as well as giving you a bit of tidbits on the rest of the product. This is not kind of an individual product review centric video, but after seeing all these products from Giorgio Armani, if you guys want me to do a single dedicated review on any one of these or any two of these to make a very close comparison and also show you, like, you know, a morning check-in, afternoon check-in, if you guys really want to see it in action, definitely let me know. But yeah, just my quick rundown on all things Giorgio Armani foundations. And like I mentioned, I did do a previous video on these two, just check it out in the cards. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.